Hi, this is Steven Orlando, the creator of Treasure Adventure Game, and this is part 4 of my video Post-Mortem for Treasure Adventure Game. I'm just kind of playing through the game, talking about some of my experiences I had while making the game and answering questions from people. So I met the first boss that you run across in the game, so I'm going to play this boss and try to answer questions, although I might have trouble doing both. But I'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I had a question asked, what code did I use to create this game? And I think most people probably, I've mentioned it plenty of times before, most people probably know I used a program called Multimedia Fusion 2 to create the game. So it isn't really a programming language per se, but like a visual coding system that has a lot of, great features for making games kind of built into it. So, image editors, a lot of different visual effects kind of like built into a lot of plugins that you can use for like, platforming objects and doing things like, gravity and things like that. So, although it still requires lots of time to code it with visually coding, it's not exactly, I want to call it a programming language. But I found Multimedia Fusion to have, to be overall a great program, but I had a lot of problems with it overall. The larger a game gets, the more difficult. I mean, that's probably the case with any programming language or any system that, obviously it gets bigger, gets more complicated. But overall, I don't think I would use Multimedia. Actually, well, I know I won't use Multimedia Fusion again, just because I found a program I like better, which is Construct 2, which is very similar in many ways, but definitely a more streamlined package and a little more modern. So I've been enjoying using Construct 2 quite a bit. So that's so I'm pretty sure I won't be going back to Multimedia Fusion. But it is a good way it is a good program, and it's a great place to get started. If you don't know anything about programming, I would definitely recommend it. For graphics, a lot of the graphics I actually built in Multimedia Fusion, but I started to get into a program called GraphicsGale, which is a pretty popular spriting program that used by in game developers. A lot of indie game developers have recommended it to me. So GraphicsGale, it's free, and that's a pretty good program for doing spriting and things like that, animations and stuff. I did use Photoshop occasionally for doing graphics that required like alpha channel effects, but I used less and less of that as I went and kind of used more GraphicsGale. And I talked about this previously in another video, but I used a program called Goldwave for audio editing. Actually, one thing that I wanted to talk about it while I was working on playing the boss there, but I wanted to mention this, but as I was going, as I probably mentioned before, is that when I started working on this game, I really knew very little about game design and programming and coding and everything that goes along with it. And so that boss is one of the first ones I created, and you may notice that he has essentially his arms and pieces kind of rotate and things, and this is before I actually even knew you could dynamically rotate sprites. So you'll notice I actually animated. It's kind of clunky, but I've animated him turning his hands and rotating pieces, and I think it's funny that later on I discovered I can just rotate this on the fly, and later in later places in the game I do that, but it's just funny how to look back at that and be like, oh, this I never went back and finished it. That was one thing that I kind of did with this game. And that's probably one of the reasons why it actually got finished, was I refused to go back and change things, even if it would have been better if it worked. So that was a case where I was like, this boss works, even though I could make it look smoother and better. I decided not to go back and change it. I think if I kept doing that, I probably never would have finished the game. So that was what my thinking there, and I think that's a good way to be. I mean, if you got something that you've got working, even though maybe you later figure out a better method to do it, to do it, make it cleaner. I mean, obviously, sometimes you have to, but if you think you can get away with it, and it works, and no one else is going to know, then I say you just stick with it. So I'm going to answer a few more questions here that I got in the last video. As I do this next little mini boss here. Somebody asked me if I could point them in a direction to create something, where would I point them to? I guess I thought about this a little bit, and I think number one thing is if you're thinking about making a game and you're not sure which way to go with it or how to start, I would say start playing. Just play a lot of games that you like, that are similar to a game you want to make. I mean, play it and write down the things that you like about it. Write down, or even if you don't write down, just keep it in the back of your mind. Like, what is it about this game? What makes this game fun? I might actually end up dying here. What is it about this that I enjoy? And I think that if you do that, when you start to make your game, you'll probably apply a lot of those same concepts. I mean, that's obviously what I did with my game. I'd also say, you have to know what your abilities are, and like as far as programming and graphics, and work within them. I mean, you can always, you can only get better with practice. But if you are just starting out, it's tough to admit sometimes. But you have to really work with what you've got. So, for example, in tag, I would have liked to have, oh crap. Good thing I didn't save too recently, but okay. I'm gonna do this part again, I guess. So yeah, work within your skills, and I guess you can also find someone that can, make up for what you lack. But that's something that I would be weary about doing as you start, if you're just starting out too, because I feel like that can be very difficult to find, someone to work with who is going to be exactly on the same page as you. And I really think the best way to go when you're starting out is to try to do everything as much you can yourself, unless you've got very close friends that want to help or whatever. But so I guess the next part of that is, if you do have deficiencies in areas, say graphics or coding, I mean, what can you do about it? And I'm gonna say, it's all about practice. It's about using the resources available, going to web forums. Go to web forums and just figure out like what it is you even need to learn. Sometimes the trick is I don't even know, you don't even know necessarily what it is that you have to learn how to do, like what it's called, or what the language is, what the terminology might be. Or so web forums are a great place to find that information out. And then they might seem outdated, but I think reading books and buying books on the topics that you want is still the way to go. I mean, forums are great and everything, but books, they have an editorial process. They're meant to be learning tools. I mean, that's the best way to learn. You pick up a book on the thing you want to learn. It might be like a process that takes a while, but it's definitely, overall, you will find yourself starting to pick up the new things, and just keep practicing. Make something, and if it doesn't work, then chalk it up as a learning experience. There is definitely many times. I mean, Tag was a game that started out as a totally different game originally, and I scrapped it. And along the way, there was lots of parts of the game that had to be scrapped simply because it was beyond my skill level. And so I said, I will do something that's not out of my limits. So and that's why a lot of things in Tag ended up being the way they were, was because they I had to make compromises. But then you find how can I make what I can do really, really good. And I think that's a good way to go. So let's see. Somebody asked what were some of my favorite indie games. So I think there's some obvious influences. When before I made Tag, I was playing a lot of Cave Story and Knit Stories and Alex Adventure. Those games, I think, and actually La Mulan, I think, was out around that time. And those games made me realize that I really want to do this, because these are a lot of games made by one person or a handful of people, and I was kind of amazed by how you could get sucked into them and how they reminded me of the games that I was playing when I was a kid. And it seemed amazing to me that these could be done by such a small team or even one person. So those were the games I was playing around the time when I decided to do Tag. Since then, I mean, I played loads of games, but see, lately I've been playing I've been playing Mutant Mudds on the 3DS, which is a fun platform game that has that kind of cool 3D effect. I really enjoyed the 3D effect in that with the pixel art. I think it's really cool. I've been playing a lot of Binding of Isaac, which is a fantastic rogue shooter game. I'm sure you've all heard of. Hey, what am I doing now here? Let's just take a break here. Okay, so yeah, I've got to go back down to the temple. A lot of exposition. Okay, so obviously I played a lot of Spelunky when that came out. I've been playing Lone Survivor recently by Jasper Byrne, which is a really great survival game, like Silent Hill style 2D game. And I actually just played this game recently. It's called Vertex. I can't remember who it's by, but it was posted on the TIG source forums. I think I got on indiegames.com, and just a demo is out now. But it's that's a fantastic game. It seems like very much influenced by like Cave Story, but it's a really fun game. I was really enjoying that quite a bit. So, all right, let me just get through this part here. Oh crap! I am gonna die, and I died. I hope I saved it. I saved it way back here. That was stupid. I'm talking and I'm getting distracted. Alright, so I'm walking back. So another question, this is sort of related to that, is, what games gave me inspiration for, things like level design, and other, maybe other types of design decisions that I made. And so I think, once again, some of this might seem a little obvious, but I think number one, the game that probably influenced me the most was Super Mario Brothers 2. I absolutely love Super Mario Brothers 2, and I think the reason why that game over the other early Mario Brothers games was the fact that it had no timer. I loved that in Mario Brothers 2, you could just hop in a level and you could go back. You could travel, up, down, left, right. It felt like very much like an exploration game to me, and the sense that you would go in and out of doors, go into caves, climb, vines, all that sort of stuff. But there was no urgency to get to the end of the level. So I felt like you were sort of dropped in that world and you explored. So I think Mario Brothers 2 had a big influence. Obviously the digging through sand, that came straight from Mario Brothers 2. The vegetables that you dig out of the ground pretty much came straight from Mario Brothers 2. So there's obviously some influence there. I would say Yoshi's Island was, one of those games that changed my life when it came out, and there's probably some influence there. There's definitely at least one scene which I haven't gotten to yet, and I'm not gonna. It's the whole scene in the Mushroom Cave. That obviously came from Yoshi's Island level, where I forget what they called it, but basically like a kind of a drug trip type scene, and I was definitely inspired by that. There's some Castlevania influences for sure. Obviously, Symphony of the Night in a way because of some of that like the Metroidvania style stuff, but then also, just like there's that whole factory section of the game, which I kind of was a slightly homage to the Clockwork Tower levels in Castlevania. And then I would even say Earthbound to a degree. Earthbound is one of those games that changed my life, I feel like. So there's little hints and nods to Earthbound. Like I think in particular, like in the club in the city, it's kind of like, I think that idea probably arose from Earthbound, when I can't exactly remember the name of the group that you ran across in that club, but so yeah, all of those games and a lot more too. Basically just about any of the popular games for NES or Super Nintendo probably had some influence on me since I played them all. So, all right, so what am I doing now here? Let me take a look. So, oh yeah. So now, this is the part in the game where once you get the lockpick kit, it really opens up. So I kind of designed the first part of the game to be sort of linear in the sense that, to get your bearings, figure out how the game works and everything. And now, once you get the lockpick kit, you can really start your adventure. So I'm gonna pick up a couple lockpicks. I'm gonna grab one more, and I've only got about 45 seconds left, so probably actually should just find a save. Well, I'll just go back in here and save it, and then I'll see how far I can get. So I don't have much time left. I'll answer one more question. People ask me what other games I played while I was working on this game, and it's hard for me to remember, but I will tell this: I played a hell of a lot of Elder Scrolls Oblivion while I was playing this game. I absolutely fell in love with that game. I played it probably way more than I should have, and other than that, I really can't even remember. I just remember playing Oblivion, and then being like, okay, I'm done with Oblivion, time to work on Tag. So that's what I'm going to give you for now. And that's about the end of this video. I don't have time to do anything else. So I will have another one shortly, and thanks again for listening, and leave more comments, and I will try to answer them in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye.